Hi all, and welcome to the second edition of 5 Reasons Not to Harm Your Family During the Quarantine. Just as a review of yesterday, which I hope that all of you are doing famously well today. We talked about the top 5 reasons are because, number 1, protective services workers essential, and number 2, that the police are essential. We talked about violations of parenting time orders. We talked about the difference in parenting time orders and how they comply with the governor's directive versus policies at Protective Services and the Department of Health and Human Services. We talked about the tickets that are being given to people who violate the stay-at-home order. We talked about the impact of why you don't want to go to jail at this point in time, so it's probably best to stay home, and a few other topics. So if you want to tune in to yesterday's, I welcome you and enjoy. And for today, we're going to turn our attention to some first by way of, I keep getting these things that I'm broadcasting at a low connection. Can somebody do a chat and let me know if it's coming through okay? Oh, good morning or afternoon, Luann. I hope you're feeling well. Okay, I'm assuming because she's there that it's happening okay. So today I wanted to tell everyone that, first of all, everything I'm about to tell you could be totally different tomorrow. Things are changing literally every single day. And the most drastic changes that are coming in the next few days are going to be school. The trend has begun around the country for schools to be closed for the rest of the year. And so next week, every single day, we will be talking about educational issues. And I'll put up like a table of contents so you know what day we're going to talk about special ed issues, what day we're going to talk about FAPE, which is the free access to public education, compliance with 504s and IEPs with home education, what you do if you don't have the resources at home. And quite honestly, I don't have the answers to those questions today because it's changing every day, just like this custody and parenting time stuff is. So let me just update you on a couple things from yesterday's live. First of all, we talked about yesterday how the Michigan Supreme Court put out a directive on March 16th, 2020, saying that parents are to be reminded that all court orders regarding custody and parenting time and support are still in full force. Only a new court order can change them, and parents should continue to follow the court order. Okay, that sounds great. Our courts are only open on an emergency basis, and denial of parenting time is certainly an emergency, as is the contacting the friend of the court or let them know if you have an inability to pay your child support at this time. It's really important that those child support obligations are dealt with timely so that arrearages that where people can't catch up don't occur. So that's one thing that we are doing to try to make this, livable for everyone. So we're dealing with education, we're dealing with custody and parenting time constantly, as well as support. However, as I mentioned yesterday, and I will post this on our website as soon as I figure out how. This is all really new, obviously, but this is the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services latest directive from March 24th, 2020, which deals with parenting time for children who are subject to court jurisdiction, which means the court is temporarily dictating parenting time as well as what services need to be completed for families to be reunified. This has become crazy because nobody knows what controls. Nobody knows if this is what controls this policy, or if your court order that the Michigan Supreme Court came out with a week ago controls. Or so in that vein, we are absolutely filing emergency motions. We do have access on that basis. It has to be an emergency. It cannot be, parent is being silly and thinks that his or her house is more healthy than my house, so they're denying parenting time. They have to be legitimate. The court is screening. They will only hear it if it's real and it's legitimate, and kids are being precluded from their right to be with both parents and their parents' right to parent them. So, and that is the case of Santaski versus Kramer, if you were ever wondering about that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, also related to yesterday, a little update. There was a statement from the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office today that violations of the stay-at-home order by the governor, which we talked about yesterday, is it's difficult to understand, and it's difficult to know the guidelines of what you're allowed to do. The Oakland County Prosecutor's Office put out a statement this morning by Paul Walton, a very dear and wonderful prosecutor, that that they will not be arresting for violations of the stay-at-home order. However, they will be advising to go home, and they will be checking for papers. The reason they're not arresting is several. Some of them are very very obvious. They don't want to risk contact between deputies and the public. Different people exposed to different things. The other reason is because, as we talked about yesterday, and we're going to talk about a little more today, that we have really big issues in our jails right now, as well as in our prisons, as well as in the detention centers for illegal people, and I can only do so much for them. So, again, just like I told you yesterday, we are doing emergency motions to try to get people out of jail if they are an at-risk population. And we are trying to get them, or if they are not serious offenders, if they can be sentenced and their sentence is going to be probation, or if they're serving time and have less than 2 months left on their sentence, we can try to work it that way. Obviously, there aren't enough mental health services in jails and in prisons at this time, and all of these loved ones are the whole mental health issue of the prisoners undetained is overwhelming. But we're not talking about that today either. Going back to the Oakland County directive, what are the papers? And the papers seem to be a huge issue. How do the police know if they randomly stop you if you are allowed to be in your car at that moment? How do you prove you were going to the grocery? How do you prove you're an essential person? Well, I don't have the answer for the grocery. I guess I would suggest that it's a go and come back. It's not like I'm already out, so I'm going to go. In law school, bar exam question, we learned about the frolic and detour, where you can't really go do whatever you want just because you're out on a task for your employer. So let's stay focused. Let's stay healthy. But what are the papers? The papers have to be in your possession if you are an essential worker or are going back and forth from your employment for any reason. And those reasons are specified in the governor's order. Again, I can post that on our website in case you're not sure if you're in an essential industry. I'm thinking by now most people think they are and know they are. So who are? If you have to go do your payroll, if you have to go do, any sort of function to either, number one, keep a small business running, billing, taxes, payroll, then you must have a letter from your employer that you have in your possession that says that this is your job and this is what you do and this is when you need to do it, and you have to comply with the letter from your employer. In my office, I'm going to make that notarized and contact information so that next Monday, when for the very, very first time during this, our most essential person who does all of our administrative financial stuff in our office, so she can go to work. And we are all staying home except her, in order for her to be protected while she's performing the essential functions of our office. So I will post a sample of a essential worker authorization to travel letter, I guess is what I would call it, on our website as well. We're going to create a tab that says resources and some of the articles I told you about yesterday, the directives from the governor, this letter, other things, as soon as we figure out how to do it. I wish Jim Hayes, our guru of our website, was listening so that he could know that this is on the task list. But I'm hoping by tomorrow everything will be up there. Next, I see a lot of you have just tuned in. So I just wanted to tell you that the reason I decided to do this, and I'm going to do it every day at 1:00, and we're going to do it on different issues each day, because I think that the best way to sleep at night is with peace of mind. And if you have information, then you have more peace of mind. And I personally get my peace of mind from the Calm app with the 5-minute wonderful deep sleep lady. But for all of you who are worried about the collision of COVID with legal issues, especially those dealing with education, family, criminal law, and child protection, this is your spot. So I encourage you all, email me your questions, post your questions in the feed right now. I'm happy to answer them as like I did yesterday. That will be number 4. Okay, we're now updated from yesterday to today. We got some people. I'm so excited that someone actually wants to listen to this because I think it's important. And so I guess the hot issue of today is how can the governor tell me that I have to stay home and threaten to charge me with a misdemeanor if the Constitution says that I can basically be free and do what I want? Well, this is Constitutional Law 101, folks, and you didn't even have to go to law school or take the bar exam to learn it. Basically, what is promotional to the welfare of the public, a compelling government interest, that is more important than our individual rights to assemble or free speech or maintain our livelihood. And really, other than being with our children, and our children being with us, there isn't a lot more important than promoting a governmental interest that is compelling and protects the public. I've talked to a lot of you about education issues in the past, and one of the things to remember, we always talk about we have to protect the integrity of the educational setting. Well, just think of this as the government protecting the world. and our community that means so much right now. So that's why that can happen. Write in your questions on that little thingy that looks like a thought bubble. And you want any more specific information about that, I'm happy to tell you, but that's the quick and dirty as to why the government can do that. We talked about one of our reasons yesterday, that you want to love your family and stay home and not harm them at this point, is because you really don't want one of those misdemeanor tickets for not following the order. If you get the misdemeanor ticket, the problem is that we don't have a lot of access to courts right now for what happens if you're charged with a crime, which is the second thing that we're going to talk about today. So what does happen if you're charged with a crime right now? It's a mess. And it's only a mess because we don't know. We just don't know. Every jurisdiction is handling this differently. And so, actually, before I even go, I just got a comment and a question, and the I just want to address it really quickly, and it has to do with the shutting down of realtors, mortgage reps. Oh, shutting down of realtors while mortgage reps and title companies are allowed to operate. And that is something that I wasn't even aware of, but I guess my answer would be that we are using other states and other countries model as to how to stop the virus and how to stop this health crisis. And I think that they are looking at mortgages and title companies and refinancing as a way to continue to financially save us in light of all of this, where buying and selling houses they are not seeing as essential. There are, I just learned today from a non-lawyer who is someone very near and dear to me, that you can call your mortgage company, you can call your car loan company, you can call your cable company, you can call your, there was one more that was surprising to me, and they will give you relief. Some of them are saying, just don't pay for, a month, and then we'll spread out this month's payment across other months. There's all different creative options, and I think that part of why select industries are considered essential and others aren't, regardless of their general umbrella, this one being real estate, that's why, because we have to get through this, and we have to get through this, not just our physical health, but our emotional health, as well as our fiscal health. And so that's that. Okay, so what happens? Actually, I think I should probably do number 3 instead of number 2. Because number 3 is, and just give me a quick, comment right now. How many of you are living with children? I'm not getting any responses. Okay, let's do it this way. This will be faster. Okay, give me a happy face emoji or some emoji thing if you're living with children. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. At least one of you. Okay, so you're living with children. Your children are obviously really looking for things to do, especially if you're in a school district like mine, where school is optional. Not optional in my house, but it's optional, and as of right now, it doesn't count. So, all of that being said, kids are being kids. So, as parents, how much responsibility, how much culpability, do we have if our kids go do things right now, either in our house or outside our house, 10 feet away from whoever they're with? What is the possible ramifications to us as parents? Well, if it was pre-March 1st, 2020, the answer is really easy. Your kids are throwing a banger, it disturbs the neighbors, the police are called, they come, and everything with rights and all that plays out different in every situation. Certainly when the police come, if you are home, you do not have to let them in unless they have a warrant. You can quietly ask them and calmly ask them what their concern is, and you can then hopefully just rectify it and send them on their way. But what happens if you're not home? Let's say that you are working 24 hours a day in a hospital and your kids are home alone and they decide that, like, this is crazy, we're just going to have over a few friends, and even though we're not 21, we're going to drink. And then the police come. Well, just like on any other day now, that would be a situation where parents could be accused of failing to adequately supervise. Parents could be accused of contributing to the delinquency of the minor if they had alcohol in the home, or their kids had access to alcohol in the home. There could be those are misdemeanors that are possibilities. There could be there's a violation in some jurisdictions for having a house party, an underage house party. There's obviously every one of those kids is going to get, if they agree to be tested to blow, they could get MIP tickets. The first one is a civil infraction. The second one is a misdemeanor. These are serious consequences, especially for these high school seniors who's are, I think, under the most stress of all of this because they have no idea if they're even going to graduate. And they're, 8 months away from the college party. So not even 8 months away, 6 months away. So let's be really careful about what's going on in our homes. Let's be really careful what our kids have access to and how they have access. And even more importantly, remember social media. Our kids have lost their lifelines and they're under stress, and, talk to them about social media issues. Don't send nudes. It's considered child pornography. Don't do Zoom chats and drink together. We don't know if there's any interest in any privacy interest in Zoom. Remember, until 3 weeks ago, most people never even heard of it. So there's all kinds of issues that are going on with children during this time, with parents' responsibilities during this time, and it's literally unfolding before our eyes. I did get a request to talk about a special needs adult and a little bit, and I'm not sure if you're telling me that so that you are in my I'm caring for a child category, or because that's something you want to want me to include when we focus on education at home next week, and your rights when that is happening. So if you want to clarify that for me, either through a message or either through a private message or an email, lisa@kdlawgroup.com, I'll make sure that is included. Okay. What happens if I'm arrested? Well, I guess the first thing you have to do is call me. And I've said yesterday, and I'll repeat it again today, I love you all, but I hope you don't need me. other than to maybe answer a question for you, which is what I'm trying to do now to be efficient. Number one, it is very unlikely that they are going to just come to your home and arrest you. Quite honestly, they have nowhere to put you. The jails have been they've kind of figured out a way. Who knows if it's effective or not? In a situation where they can't exercise social distancing for obvious reasons, to just separate newly committed inmates from people who are have been incarcerated for any period of time. That listened to yesterday, I went into a lot of detail with that, and I don't want to take up a ton of your time. So basically, if you do get arrested, you will, I'm going to do this two ways. First, if you get arrested. Secondly, if you're just charged with a crime. If you're arrested, you're going to call me. Our phones are working, 248-792-3060. Give us a shout. The next thing you're going to do is remain silent. You are not going to talk without us being able to find out exactly what you're charged with, exactly what the allegations are. Don't guess. If they tell you this is all about what happened last Thursday, you have a different version of last Thursday, I promise you, than the police and the person who reported the crime do. So, remember that. If it's a misdemeanor, the next thing that would happen is that you would have to be arraigned. Arraigned is formally charged. Actually, it would happen on a felony as well. But a misdemeanor being something punishable for less than 1 year, you know, that ticket you got when the police came to your house and there was a party going on. The felony, something more punishable by more than a year. For those of you who have met with me, you've seen my diagram of how all this goes down, and I'm happy to do that. I'm going to get through this first. The arraignment is difficult because as soon as you're charged with a crime or arrested, it goes into the law enforcement information network that you have an outstanding warrant. An outstanding warrant allows any law enforcement officer under any circumstances who becomes aware of that outstanding warrant to arrest you. You're a passenger in a car, which right now you shouldn't be because we're not supposed to be out there and we're not supposed to be within that close range with others. I do know one situation where people were stopped for having too many people in the car and not exercising social distancing. They did not get a ticket. They got a warning. So as I said, different communities are handling this differently. Ordinarily, an arraignment, a formal hearing where you're charged with a crime would occur in a district court. And at that time, we go before a magistrate or a district court judge in person. They would read the charges and they would set conditions of release or bond. What we're doing now is they're trying to limit the number of people who actually come into the courthouse, and the Constitution, as well as Michigan statute, says that you have to be arraigned within 24 hours of being arrested. So, how do we pull all this off? Well, first of all, you have to have some communication with either, I would have it if I was involved with the detective who was investigating it, with the arresting officer, with courts are not always answering their phones. So it's difficult information to just dial the main number and figure out, but you can call the main number to the court. You want the option for the criminal clerk or for arraignments before the magistrate. Those seem to be the voicemail prompts that have been most successful for most people to figure this out. With some of them, we have, as attorneys, we have some back alleyways and peers who have already worked the system to tell us, okay, they're doing this, and this in that court, which is just more efficient. So in a recent situation that I'm involved in, my client was charged with felony, and I obviously did not want any of us to come into the courthouse. This was about a week ago, so it was prior to the stay at home, but certainly the you should stay at home order being in place. And at that time, we called and they said, you got to walk them in. Well, that's the old way. That's pre-coronavirus, COVID-19. And I'm a high-risk person with a breathing issue, and there was no way that I was going to do that. And so I talked to, everyone involved, and they said to me, well, you can have your client walk in without you. And then the lights go off. Scary. No, someone's going to talk to him. Or you can have your client walk into the Oakland County Jail, and he can go to the video room there, and he can be by video from the jail. You can be on video from somewhere else, and we'll do it that way. And I was just like, oh my God, this is worse and more worse. This just seemed untenable to me. There was no way that I was having my client walk into the jail when I was hoping he was going to get a personal bond and not have to be in custody at all. So, and why should he be exposed to everything in the jail? It's interesting because we don't have no information about what's happening to drunk drivers who are affected. At this point, we don't know where they're holding them, what they're doing with them, if they're holding them the requisite time till they get to zero. So that'll be a subject for next week, where I might invite one of my drunk driving attorney guru pals to join us and tell us what's happening in that world, because that's just totally different. Okay. Anyway, so we figured out how to do the arraignments. As I said, it's being done in every jurisdiction differently. That means every city, every township, every village, they're doing it differently as to if it's video, if it's live, if it's Zoom, if it's Polycom, some of them we're just faxing in an acknowledgement of the charges, and we are asking for a personal bond. So that's the beginning steps of what's going to happen. If the person who is arrested does not get a personal bond, they will immediately be taken to the jail. They will be put in a quarantined section of the jail. I was asked yesterday if that quarantine section of the jail has been cleaned, or if it's just a place where no other inmates have been. Well, I would hope that it's clean, but for those of you who are unfamiliar with how jails work, which I hope is all of you, the inmates are responsible for cleaning. When you're at certain levels, at trustee level, for example, or a workforce or a job in the jail or in the prison, you are part of that cleaning crew. And the other thing is that they do not use any products that have alcohol in them for obvious reasons. And so that is a big dilemma and unknown. So don't harm your family, because what could happen if you're charged with a crime is obviously, it could be a very, very, very big risk to your health, to your family's health. And certainly at this point, there's just, we don't know. We just don't know. So love them, deal with them, figure it out, make schedules for what your family's going to do. Okay, I tangent. Let me come back to the last thing that I wanted to talk about today. And let me just get my little list here. Well, does anyone have any questions about anything? Because we're actually on number 4, and that's your questions. So, we talked a little bit about the real estate stuff already. I'm just scrolling through right now. As far as like the financial people who can help you and things you can ask for financial reprieve for, credit card companies, insurance, hospital bills, car payments, were all sent in. Cancel non-essentials, lawn care, etc. Although I personally would really like to be able to have a nice lawn to sit on and look at if I have to stay in my house for longer. Again, next week, everything will be focused on school and everything that school homeschooling, what happens if they cancel the rest of the school year, what happens if they, how we implement our special services and accommodations to children with special needs and disabilities. If we have any legal recourse, if learning is inhibited in the home setting versus what they could do and the accommodations and different supports that they can put in place in a brick and mortar school. So those are all things that we'll be dealing with next week. And if you have any specific questions, again, email me, Lisa at Kirsch Daskas. Oops, that's not even the right email address. Lisa at kdlawgroup.com. We're open. Call us 248-792-3060. I'll be posting stuff on our website. What do you need? What do you need to know? Let me be your peace of mind. I did not get any other questions right now. So, with that in mind, I guess that I will give you reason number 5 that you don't want to harm your family. And that is because, at least for me personally, I don't look good in horizontal stripes. Orange is not my best color. And with that, I hope that you all stay well, stay healthy, stay home, and I'll see you Monday at 1 o'clock. Bye.